All right, we should be live. It's Jared with Self Mastery for Men. What's going on, everybody? Great to see you here today. If you're watching us live, go ahead and comment live. Love to see if this is up and running. If you're watching us on the replay, I know many of you said that you want to check this out. And, there's work schedules, there's time zone differences. If you're watching us on the replay, comment replay and love to see who's joined us and what you're getting out of this. So today's topic is how can you improve every area of your life simultaneously while avoiding burnout? So it's going to be a great topic. Let me pull up my slides. I put together a little slideshow for you, and I'm going to pull this up here. It should help out. And let me know if you can see it. So give me a thumbs up or give me a heart if you can see that, okay? And then we'll begin. So, all right. Today's topic is how can you improve every area of your life simultaneously as a man without burning out? And one of the first questions is, well, why are we covering this? And the reason why is because I saw, there's so many people online that post all this different stuff. And there's one gentleman, I'm not going to name any names, but he was like, you've got to hustle. You've got to grind. As a guy, you've got to maximize every area of your life at the same time. And if you're not hustling, you're not grinding, you're not banging your head against the wall, you're not really striving, you're not 10Xing all the time, then basically you're a loser, is what he was referring to. And hey, like this group is called Self Mastery for Men, right? It's one of the fastest growing groups, by the way, for men's personal development. So we're all achievers here and we all want to make really great things happen in our lives. And that mentality of banging your head against the wall and striving and hustle and grinding, you got to do a little bit of that. But the way this guy was talking, it to me was the fast track to burnout, and it was a recipe for disaster. Let me ask you, have you ever had a situation where New Year's resolution or a goal or something you want to create or a business you want to do or some type of new set of habits or actions or a skill you want to learn, and you go all in and you try to make it happen and you're motivated for a while, and then it works for like a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then you hit the brick wall and your motivation dies? Or it's like you got to force yourself. And maybe you've done this multiple times. And there's no judgment. I've done this too, where you have an idea, you have a goal, you have this vision, you start implementing it, it doesn't work, and then you drop down. You try again and you drop down. You try again and you drop down. Pretty soon, you don't try again as hard. And then pretty soon we start to settle and we start to burn out. And so I want to help you guys avoid that. And one of the reasons why I think I'm capable of talking to you about this is because I had to improve every area of my life simultaneously. Not because I wanted to. God knows I didn't want to. Like I was not happy about this when it happened, but I had to. It was out of necessity. And I lost everything. My health was in shambles. My finances were in the worst shape you would ever want to imagine them to be. My relationships were non-existent. I was divorced. The book No More Mr. Nice Guy was essentially written about me. Not really, right? But it could have been. Um, and I was just so upside down. I was stress eating like crazy. I was obese and I had lost everything. And I knew that I was capable of so much more than I was demonstrating. And I go, there's got to be something I'm missing here. And I hustled and I grinded and I studied everything. And I went to all the seminars and I tried to fire myself up. Do you know what I mean? I did all the things that you would think to do. And no matter what I tried, I ended up having a lot of great knowledge. I could recite everything. I was really book smart. I had a library full of books and audios and all this stuff, but I wasn't owning any of it. And then I'd get into a real life situation as like I went right back to the way it was, where I'd start a routine and I'd be like, today's the day everything's going to turn around. And I'd do it for a week and I'd lose momentum. And it was driving me nuts. And so I had to find a way to solve this because everything in my life was at rock bottom. I didn't have the luxury of picking and choosing. Like everything had to change and it had to change right now. I didn't have the luxury. I was that bad. But so I discovered a couple of things. That's what I want to show you today, which is how can we have you improve any area of your life? And maybe you're not anywhere near as bad as I was, which I hope you're not. Maybe you are. This will help you if you're as bad as I was, if you're as low as I was, this will help you. If you're not nearly as low as I was, this will still help you because the principles work. And I want to help you get into alignment. And that's what today's all about. So one of the first things is one of the first principles is a quote by Einstein. And we all know Einstein, like we're all his close personal buddies, right? We hang out with him all the time. But no, Einstein had a great quote. He goes, "You can't solve a problem at the same level that it was created. You can't solve a problem at the same level it was created." And that's very important, especially when it talks about when we come to talk about what we're going to talk about today, especially with this topic. So as men, what do? There's something we want to fix. We want to fix our health. We want to fix our relationship. We want to fix our finances. We want to improve something. We're logical and we like to fix stuff. So what we do is we go into problem solver mode, don't we? And we hustle and we grind. And if we have to, we spend tens of thousands on like how-to programs. Like, I want to start a business, so let me do this ABC program that gives you the business system. Or I'm going to go invest in this trainer that is going to show me how to eat right and count my calories and go to the gym, right? The only problem is you do it for a little while and then it doesn't work. Or you know the right things to do, you know the food to put in. He gives you the exercise program, but you don't follow through on it. Or you see the ABC, this program will make you $10,000 a month if you follow the process, but then for some reason you don't do it. You self-sabotage, right? And we blame ourselves. And then we try to work harder, or we double down, or we try to do more, or we hustle more, or we grind more, or we think, we gotta really fire up even more, and we burn out again, and we don't get the results that we want. And eventually we end up thinking that it's us. There's something wrong with us. And we do this cycle enough times where we push ourselves and we crash, and we push ourselves and we crash. And eventually we start to instinctively, number one, think it's us. And then number two, we start to not push ourselves as hard anymore. And then we start to settle. I've been there. Comment below if that resonates with you. Okay. So what do we want to do? We want to help you get into alignment. Now, one thing I want to point out before I get to the next slide is take a look at this picture here. It's a funny picture. I thought it would represent, Mr. Fix It. That's me. I got a chainsaw for Christmas. I was so happy about it. I told my girlfriend, like, you gotta take a picture of me outside with the chainsaw, right? And I was just using it for, for giggles here on the live. But when I put it into the slideshow, I go, what a great metaphor. I noticed something. Look at the cord. The cord of the chainsaw is not plugged in. So take a look at what that means, right? I'm ready. I got the chainsaw there. I got the right tool for the job, right? I'm ready to attack stuff and fix stuff and really, cut down the branches and make stuff happen. But I have no power going to the thing. It's not going to get going. And I go, what a great metaphor, right? So many times we might have all the tools, we might have all the strategies, we might have all the knowledge, we might even have all the right resources. But if there's not the right thing powering it, it doesn't turn on. Does that make sense? And so I want to show you how do we power this the right way so you can actually get results and get into alignment. What is alignment? Well, so alignment is when your body, your mind, your spirit, your actions, everything aligns. It's like total congruence. And when you're in alignment, you're no longer pushing. A lot of times, guys, we try to push, we try to force, it's like a striving energy. It's like a forceful type of energy, but it's like we're fighting against, which means something's pushing back against us. But when you're in total alignment, what starts to happen is the results seemingly happen automatically. Now, it still requires work. It's still going to require, if you want to lose weight, to go to the gym. It's going to require you to eat differently. It's going to require you to, if you want to make a business, you got to actually have to do the business and do all things required. But when you're in alignment, you're not fighting against all the internal conflicts anymore. I did a great live on this last time about how to resolve inner conflicts. So if you want to see that video, comment inner conflicts below. I'll make sure myself or one of my team gets you that video about the inner conflicts. I'll show you how to get rid of them. But when you're in alignment and all your inner conflicts go away, instead of 2 steps forward and like 1 or 3 steps back, you start firing on all cylinders and things start to naturally work out for you. I was talking to a gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, I feel like I'm putting all the hard work in. See if this reminds you of yourself too. I feel like I'm putting all the hard work in, but I'm not getting the result that seems even equal to the hard work that I'm putting in. It's because there's inner conflicts there, right? When you're in alignment, what you start to notice is when you're out of alignment, it's like you're pushing a weight that's like too heavy for you to do it. It's like you can't get it to, like it's if you're like bench pressing, it's a weight that's going to crash on your chest. That's when you're out of alignment. But when you're in alignment, it's like you've been pushing hard for so long. Well, now the weights is what you can actually like you have muscle now and you're actually able to lift the weights. When you're in alignment, everything lines up perfectly. And the things that used to be difficult start to become easy. They start to come natural to you. And the results that you start to get, they make sense. You get an equal amount of results to the effort that you're putting in. Does that make sense? So that's what happens when you're in alignment. You're completely congruent and the results start to come easy. Even though you do have to put in a little bit of work, you're not fighting against yourself anymore. So let's think about some areas of life that men might want to improve. So think of a few, put some in the chat. I thought of the main ones here. If there's any more that you can think of, feel free, put it in the chat below. We'll add it to the list. But I'm figuring for the most part, self-mastery for men in this group, men want to improve their health. They want to improve their financial situation. They want to have better relationships with love and passion and, togetherness. They want to maybe change careers or have a career that fulfills their mission, that fulfills them, or they want to improve their masculinity. Masculinity is so misunderstood right now because in today's world, especially, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you're, considered masculine, people call you toxic. If you're super nice and agreeable and, share your feelings, they call you, not man enough. And it's like, well, what do you do? So masculinity is not really understood. You got to be a grounded, centered, authentic leader of your own life. That's what it really is. But a lot of guys don't know that. Now they don't know how to implement that. They haven't had anybody to role model. So that's why there's books like No More Mr. Nice Guy and all these masculinity books out there. But health, finances, relationships, career, masculinity, these are all areas of life that a man, I would think, would want to improve. If I'm missing one or two, comment below. Love to add it to the list someday. I'll just see what else that you might want to improve. Now think about if you were to select one area or two areas or three areas, what would you normally do to try to fix this? Well, you'd probably do this, exactly what this next slide is going to be. If you want to fix your health, what do? You got to go to the gym. You got to start a nutrition plan or an exercise plan. You got to take your measurements. You got to install new habits, which is kind of hard because you're not used to doing it. You got to get yourself used to doing the routine. You got to get a new trainer. You got to read fitness books or read fitness blogs or articles, watch videos. You got to meal prep. You got to go to the grocery store, buy food, change the food in your fridge. So there's all these things you have to do. That alone to get your health on track can be time consuming. Do you agree? I'm not complaining. I had to do that too, but there's a lot of stuff if you're not used to it. Let's say your finances are not where you want it to be. Maybe you grew up in a household where financial education, financial wealth consciousness was not well known, was not easily available to you. So now you got to get educated about money. You got to get a new job or a career that pays you better if that's what you want to do. You got to maybe start a side business on the side while you're already working a full-time job. You got to learn about investing. Nobody's ever taught you that, especially in the school system, right? You got to get an accountant. You got to wait for compounding interest so you can be financially free. If you're just starting, it's going to take years. You got to fight against all of your old money stories and all your old money beliefs from your parents and the people you grew up with. So that's a lot of stuff to start to turn around your financial situation. Do you know what I mean? You got to create new spending habits that you haven't done in forever. Let's talk about relationships. Maybe, your last relationship went really bad. You have codependency. You got to get rid of your codependency issues. You got to eliminate all of these triggers because your past relationships went so bad. You got to learn about attraction and polarity because, oh my God, the spark in my relationship's dying. Well, how do I fix that? There's something called polarity, masculine and feminine energy. I got to learn about that and master that. I got to try to act differently. Like the way I've been acting is not working in the relationship. I got to change how I behave. I got to wait for her to come around. If the relationship is having challenges, I can fix me. But what if, she doesn't want to, if she doesn't want to do the work too? Like I got to wait for her to come around, or I need to potentially figure out how to lead her, or I got to potentially change relationships. That's a lot of work. That means I got to get a new house, a new apartment. It's a lot of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe you want to start a career, change careers, like get on your mission here. Well, maybe you start a side hustle, but I'm working full time. You got to learn business. You got to learn marketing. You got to learn sales. People don't like to do sales. You got to create content. You got to invest in some type of course that teaches you how to do it. You got to do this in your spare time while you work a full-time job. There's a lot of little mini things that go into all of this. It's not just decide to get your health on track and it happens. You got to do all these things. Or masculinity, right? Learn attraction, practice being grounded, learn masculine energy, join men's groups, fake your confidence until it becomes real, fake it till you make it. You got to study the men's books, you got to hustle, you got to grind, right? You got to do all this stuff, learn how to dress and carry yourself. Is that an exhausting list or what? I hope you felt exhausted while I said that, because it was exhausting for me to tell you that. And this is what most men do. They go, I got to fix my health. Here's all the stuff I got to do. I got to fix my finances. Here's all the stuff I got to do. Here's all the stuff. And imagine if you had to fix multiple areas at the same time. Do you get what I'm starting to say here? This is where people get overwhelmed. This is where the burnout happens. And if you're trying to do all of this through pure force of will, it's not going to happen. You're going to do it a little bit and then you're going to burn out, which is exactly what happens in so many cases. And now with me, and I'll share with you my example here in a little bit, it wasn't just one area. It was every single area. My health was in shambles. My finances were terrible. My relationships were the worst. My career, I lost my business, my masculinity. I told you, No More Mr. Nice Guy was basically written about me, hypothetically. It was bad. It was really bad. And I couldn't let it stay like that. But also, if I tried to do all of this at the same time, there's not enough hours in the day. I don't have enough mental bandwidth, and I don't even know where to start. There's just so much. Does that make sense? So here's a concept that I want to introduce you to. It's called chunking up and chunking down. It's called chunking up and chunking down. So I'm going to go back one slide. Take health, finances, relationship, career, masculinity. Trust your instinct. If all of the things in the orange there, is that higher level or is that detail? It's detail. So watch what happens. Chunking up means going higher level and big picture, which leads to problem solving and solutions. Chunking down means getting way more specific and getting stuck in the weeds. And when you get stuck in the weeds, it leads to overwhelm, frustration, indecision. Can you guys see that? And now, what if it's multiple areas and you're chunking down on multiple areas? You're going to short circuit, which is what happens. Do you follow me? So I'm going to take an example that isn't men's personal development and just use an inanimate object. I'm going to show you how chunking works. So chunking up at the higher level is more big picture. So think 30,000 foot overview. You're in an airplane looking down. You see the whole lay of the land, much more abstract. Chunking down on the lower end, on the things on the bottom of the page, that's like nitty gritty details. Okay. So let's start in the middle with something called motorcycles. Well, so motorcycles, what's that an example of? Chunking up, a motorcycle is a mode of transportation. Well, what is a mode of transportation an example of? Well, being transported is an example of movement. You see how it goes up one level, right? Well, what's movement an example of? Well, that movement is an example of, well, something exists and it wants to go somewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? So the higher you go up, the more 30,000 foot overview it is. So there's motorcycles, but motorcycles is an example of a mode of transportation, which is an example of movement around the world, which is an example of, well, something exists and it wants to go somewhere, wants to travel. Make sense so far? Motorcycles chunked up goes to movement. Well, now what's a side chunk to motorcycles? Well, what else is a mode of transportation? Plane, cars, horses, bicycles, right? These are different examples. That's like health. That's like wealth. That's like relationships. That's like finances. Or that's like career or masculinity. So these things right in the middle, that's your categories or areas of improvement. Cars would be your health. Planes would be your finances. Motorcycles would be your career. Make sense so far? But now chunking down, you get more specific. So then you have classes and categories. So a motorcycle, it might be a Harley or a Yamaha or a Super Sport, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Or if you go the other direction, you could chunk down into the parts of the motorcycle. So a motorcycle has engines, or it has wheels, or it has cylinders, or it has valve trains. Or you'd want to go down one level deeper, lug nuts, screws. And it gets really like the component parts of it, and it gets super into the details, into the weeds, until you completely lose that it's a motorcycle, just like random parts. Does that make sense? So you have the topic right in the middle. You can chunk up to a higher level, which is a higher perspective, or you can go lower and get really stuck in the weeds. Sometimes it's useful to get in the weeds because you want to know, how do I specifically get this thing done? But that's not where you want to make the change. That's only when you make a change somewhere else first. I'm going to show you how. So let's take cars, planes, motorcycles, horses, and bicycles, and let's turn that into health, finances, relationship, career, and masculinity. Okay. This was my starting point. And I'm going to share with you where I was in each category. I was 80 pounds overweight. I was close to 6 figures in debt. I was divorced. I lost my business, and my masculinity was non-existent. I had to fix all this stuff at the same time because if I didn't, I didn't have a choice. If I would have chunked down and go, well, what are the habits that I have to do in everything, in every category? What are the books I have to read in every? There's not enough time in the day to read all the books. I can't take 20 online classes for each of these things and still be able to, fulfill a job. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just craziness. Like I wouldn't be able to do all of this stuff and get a result. I would have burnt out, especially at that point in my life. So if I were to chunk down, I would have went where? I would have went into overwhelm because I would have been focused on the skills, the knowledge. I would have been focused on the habits, on the actions. I would have been focused on the environment, and I would have got overwhelmed because I would have changed. I possibly could have changed all those things, and would it have made any difference? Probably not. And it didn't for the longest time because I did do the studying. I did get the skills. I did try to do the actions and do like habits and morning routines. I did try to change my environment. I left my marriage. I changed where I lived. I changed the environment. Didn't work because there was a higher level problem. Einstein, you can't solve the problem at the same level where the problem's happening. So I go, I need to not attack this problem here. I need to go to a higher level. Well, what's that higher level? I asked myself a different question. This is what changed the game for me. I go, what is all of this an example of? My health not being where it wants to be, my finances, my relationships, my career, masculinity. What do all of these categories of life have in common? And I asked, what's the common denominator? And I go, what is all of this an example of? And I go, what's the area where if I put my focus here, everything else is just going to start to work for me? And here's what I found. I found that the one common denominator in all of this was how I was showing up every day. It was my state, it was my energy, it was my emotions. If I had all the right skills in the world, but I'm showing up depressed and low energy and, lethargic because I didn't sleep because I was so depressed, am I going to have any chance to work on my health or finance or fix anything? No. The state of how I showed up affected that. But then I go, well, I can just pump myself up and go, look at me, I'm in a great state, I'm confident, I'm the man. But it's not true. That's fake it till you make it. I go, so how do I affect my state so it's not just some fake thing for a couple minutes? Like, how can I make that state change permanent? I go, well, what's affecting my state is what I'm thinking. So it's all of my beliefs, it's all of my values, it's my thought process, it's my worldview. And I go, oh, okay. So I got to fix my worldview. But I go, I've tried to change my beliefs before, and sometimes they come back. I go, well, what's controlling my beliefs? I go, what's above that? It's who I believe I am. It's who I believe I am. Put it this way. Who, what's stronger? I'm trying to eat vegetables or I am a vegetarian. What's stronger? I'm trying to get into a health routine or I am a healthy person. I am a bodybuilder. The I am is stronger. It's an identity. And so the number one thing that a human being needs is whatever you attach I am to, you gotta be consistent with it. You never want to call yourself a liar. So whatever you attach I am to, you tend to become. So I go, oh, what's controlling my beliefs and my values is my belief about who I believe myself to be. That's the controlling factor. And I go, well, what's controlling my identity? And here's what it is. It's not mission and vision yet. I'll explain this. The reason why a lot of guys come to me and say, I feel like there's a real version of me inside, but I just can't seem to live it. It's just not there. It's because you're not actually living your true identity. Your true identity is inside of you, but you've been conditioned since childhood by your environment, by your parents, by where you grew up, by your teachers, by what you watch on TV, by your social circle, by even the area or the state or the city you grew up in. And from 0 to 7 and 7 to 14, you just downloaded all of this stuff in, and you've become like a crock pot or a grab bag of all these different things. And so few people actually stop to say, am I really being who I am on purpose, or am I just being what I've been conditioned to be based on my surroundings? And very few people actually take the time to think about that. And I was relentless. And I go, what is really me and what's not really me? And I got really serious about figuring that out. And I created my own identity on purpose. And I go, well, then what's the one thing that's going to drive my identity? It's my mission and my vision, my purpose. If I have a strong enough purpose, here's how it works. If I have a strong enough mission and vision, I then align my identity to be the guy that gets to create that vision and purpose. Make sense? So to achieve the mission and vision and purpose, I have to become that guy. And if I become that guy, I got to go, well, what would I have to believe if I really was that guy? And then I'd have to go, well, if I really believed I was that guy, how would I show up every day? And if I showed up that way every day, how would I start to act? So instead of trying to go from the bottom up, I changed it and I went from the top down. And when I did that, when I made that shift, everything turned around for me. The weight came off like crazy. My finances turned around. My relationships and my polarity and the way that I interacted in relationships completely changed. And it did require work. It did require like reading and studying and learning some stuff, but I wasn't pushing. Like I look back at it and it's almost like it just kind of happened automatically because the circumstances in my life aligned to how I was showing up. Does that make sense? It wasn't pushing or forcing anymore. It just became very, very natural. It's like effortless effort. It was very easy, even though I did put in some work, and it was just very aligned. And that's what I want for you guys here too. So comment below, take a moment, comment below, what's the number one thing you're getting from this so far? What's the number one thing you're getting from this so far? Comment in the chat below. I'll give you a second. So what's the number one thing you're getting from this so far? And I'd love to hear it. So when you fix these top 4 things or put the focus there, the rest of the stuff becomes in total alignment. So if you want to make a change here at those lower levels, here's where you have to focus. That's where you have to start. And I reverse engineered this because people ask me, I said, Jared, we've seen the change. I've seen you help other people. How did you do it? And I didn't know how I did it. Like I figured this out of necessity. Do you know what I mean? I just had to do. I was doing this to tread water and get my sea legs back. I was trying to fix my own life when I did this a few years ago. And I took some time and I sat down and I put myself into like a position where I just started thinking and I go, what was it that I did? And this is what I came up with. This is what I figured out. I call it the 7 levels of self-mastery. And this right here is exactly what changed the game for me and what changes the game for the people that I work with. You got 7 levels. Each of these levels is important. We all need these. They all affect other levels. They all kind of interrelate, but it's chunking up and chunking down, right? The higher you chunk, the bigger picture. It has a greater control and influence on the bottom. But here's what I noticed. We'll take a look at what they are. Your mission and your higher purpose, that's your true north. Your identity is what you believe yourself to be. Your worldview is your beliefs and values about the world, your thought process, your beliefs, your fears, those types of things, what you believe about the world, what you believe about relationships. You know what I mean? Then your dominant energy, number 4, is your emotions. That's your state. That could be masculine, feminine energy. That's how you're showing up every day. That could also be your energy levels if it's physical in your body. Maybe you have something going on with your health, you need to get checked, right? Like a deficiency somewhere. But that's in your energy and emotions and your state, how you show up. Then underneath that, that's when we talk about your skills, resources, and knowledge. That's when we talk about number 6 is your habits and behavior and your actions. And number 7 is your environment. And it's also your conditioning, because conditioning is the environment you grew up in. And what most people do is, and here's how most people live life. They live from the bottom up instead of the top down. So they let their early childhood conditioning. So the environment they grew up in, what their parents told them, their school, all these things from 0 to 7, 7 to 14, all of the early conditioning, they let that control how they start to act and behave. And they let that control what they believe they have access to, what they believe they have resources to. That controls their resourcefulness, right? Which controls, like, so their conditioning controls their actions, controls what they think they have access to, which determines how they show up, their energy, their emotions. Are they, depressed? Or are they happy? They're blaming their conditioning, which then affects what they believe. Money's hard to make. I can never be successful. People don't support me. All comes from number 7. And then the conditioning controls who they believe they are. Well, I can't do that. Nobody in my family did. I can't do that. I was told I was a loser. The conditioning controls 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, which affects your ability to achieve your mission, if you even believe you have one at that point. Does that make sense? So my whole methodology is, number 1, I want to look what is going on in number 7. What's the conditioning? What's creating the beliefs and the values, and what's creating the mental blocks? And if we can get rid of the mental blocks, we can then build your life from number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. We can build it from the top down instead of the bottom up. And when you live that way, you're in total alignment. Does that make sense? So that's it for today. Comment below what's been the biggest thing you got from today, and what's something you're going to take forward with you into your life. So what's the biggest thing you got from today, and what's something you're going to take forward with you into your life? And so that's about it for today. What I want to share with you is I'm giving you as much as I can here on this Facebook Live, obviously. Some of you may want to go a little bit deeper. You may want to see, how does this apply to you personally? How can I help you personally? If you got something going on, if you want to make a breakthrough in one area or more areas of life, and you want to see how this applies to you directly, let's chat. I love helping people. I'm an open book. Consider me a resource, and comment mastery below in the comment section, and I'll reach out to you today or tomorrow or whenever, and we'll have a little 5-10 minute chat and see what's going on, where you really want to go, and if there's a way I can help. And if I can help you, love to share with you how. If not, no big deal. You can just stay a part of the group and still get the cool resources that we put here. So that's it for now. If you're looking for some help, comment mastery below, and we'll see how this applies to you. And let me know what's the biggest thing you got from today, and what are you gonna do to apply this to your life. And I'll see you guys soon. This is Jared with Self Mastery for Men. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.